The world speaks in whispers. I am but a vessel for those who cannot shout. Stories come to me. They follow me like shadows. I do not seek them. They find me and I carry them, as one might carry the weight of twilight. My name? It holds no meaning here. Names are for those who anchor themselves to places, people, and time. I am none of these. My purpose is the tale. Yours is the listening. Anyway, you can call me Duskwalker. The whispering detective adjusted his hat, its brim casting a shadow over his weathered features as he leaned forward, his hands clasped tightly together. His voice carried the weight of years spent chasing truths that often remained just out of reach. You want to know about the one case that still keeps me up at night? The one that stayed with me, haunting me in the quiet moments, whispering through the rain. It's a story I've told myself 1,000 times, trying to make sense of it, trying to find the answers that the world wouldn't give me. But it's not just a case, it's more than that. It's a memory, a ghost, a question that refuses to fade. They called her Eleanor Greene, a name so ordinary it doesn't seem fit for the mystery that followed her disappearance. And yet, for all the searching, all the digging, she remained out of reach, slipping through the cracks of reality like water through my fingers. Every clue, every step, every whisper, it led nowhere. Or maybe it led somewhere I wasn't ready to go. You want the story? Fine. But I'll warn you, it's not clean, it's not easy, and it's not the kind of thing you forget. I call it The Whispering Detective. And it starts, as most stories do, with the rain. You remember it like it was yesterday, don't you? The rain was relentless that spring, pounding on the streets like it had some grudge to settle. You'd been in the game long enough to know when a case was going to stick to your ribs, but this one was different. It started simple, like most of them do, a missing girl, Eleanor Greene. Bright future, they said. Artists always have that shine about them, don't they? Makes it hurt more when they're gone. The first call you got was from her roommate, frantic and shaking through the receiver. No signs of foul play, but no signs of Eleanor either. You did the rounds, questioned the neighbors, went to her favorite haunts. Her umbrella, that damn umbrella, was the first thing you found. It was lying there, abandoned in the park, rain pooling around it like tears. You were sure it meant something. It had to. But when you brought in the dogs, the rain had already done its work, washing the ground clean, scrubbing away every trace of her like she'd never been there. You didn't give up. You never did. You followed every lead, didn't you? The photograph, smudged and waterlogged, her smile barely visible behind streaks of ink. The witness at the bus stop, swearing they saw her boarding, but the driver shaking his head, swearing just as hard that he hadn't. Every clue, every hope dissolved the moment you touched it like it was cursed. And that's when the whispers began. You didn't tell anyone, not at first. Who would have believed you? A cop chasing ghosts in the rain. But out there, in the dead of night, standing under that bridge by the park, you heard it, your name, carried on the wind, soft as a lover's breath. You turned, didn't you? You searched the shadows, your heart pounding like it hadn't in years. There was nothing. Just the rain and maybe your own mind playing tricks on you. But the whisper didn't leave, did it? It stayed with you, echoing every time you stood under the rain, every time you closed your eyes. You never found her. Weeks became months, and Eleanor Greene became just another name in a folder buried in a drawer no one opened anymore. Still, you couldn't shake the feeling that she was out there somewhere, watching, waiting. Now, years later, you sit by the window watching the rain streak the glass. You tell yourself you've let it go, but when the storm comes, you can still hear it. That voice, that whisper. And every time it brings you back to the park, to the umbrella, to the case that won't let you rest. Funny thing, isn't it? How the rain takes everything away yet leaves you drowning in its wake. And so the rain kept falling. You've spent years convincing yourself that it was just another case. Just another girl lost to the darkness of a city that swallows people whole. That's what you tell others when they ask on the rare occasions you let yourself talk about it. You've learned to deliver the words with a practiced detachment, a veneer of professionalism that masks the gnawing doubt inside. But deep down, you know better. You know this case wasn't like the others. Every time it rains, you're back there under the bridge, staring into the murky waters of the river below. You remember how the wind carried her name, how it seemed to wrap around you like a ghost's embrace. The nights after that were the hardest. You'd sit at your desk, poring over the same tired files, searching for the thread you might have missed, the one clue that would pull it all together. But the more you searched, the more it felt like the case was searching you instead, pulling you deeper into its mystery. It was more than just the rain, wasn't it? There was something else at play. Something you couldn't see but could feel in your bones. You started to notice things, strange things. The way the streetlights flickered when you walked past them, casting shadows that seemed to shift and writhe like they had a life of their own. The way the whispers followed you, growing louder when you got close to what felt like an answer, only to recede like a wave pulling back from the shore. The worst of it came one night, months after Eleanor Greene had vanished. You were back at the park, standing by the bridge in the dead of night, as you'd done so many times before. The air was thick with the smell of rain-soaked earth, and the silence was deafening, save for the steady drip of water falling from the trees. That's when you saw it, a figure just out of reach, shrouded in the mist. It didn't move, didn't speak. It simply stood there, watching you with eyes that weren't there. You called out, your voice cracking through the stillness, but the figure remained silent. You took a step forward, then another, your heart pounding like a drumbeat in your chest. And just as you were about to reach it, the rain began to fall harder, washing it away as if it had never been there at all. You never told anyone about that night. How could you? They think you'd lost it, and maybe you had. But you've never been able to shake the feeling that whatever it was, whoever it was, it held the answer you were looking for. Maybe it was Eleanor. Maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was something else entirely. Something that wasn't meant to be found. Now, as you sit here, staring at the rain streaking down the window, you wonder if you'll ever know the truth. Part of you hopes you won't. Some mysteries, after all, aren't meant to be solved. But another part of you, the part that still hears the whispers in the back of your mind, won't let it go. It keeps pulling you back like the tide, dragging you to a place you can't escape. And so the rain keeps falling. And the whispers, they never stop. The rain became a part of you, didn't it? Over the years, it seeped into your life, an uninvited guest that never quite left. You moved on paper at least. You retired, packed up your files, and left the precinct behind. You told yourself you were done with it all, but deep down, you knew that wasn't true. The rain followed you home, whispering through the cracks in the windows, tapping at the roof like an old friend who wouldn't take the hint. Some nights, you'd sit by the window with a glass of something strong in your hand, staring out at the storm. You'd watch as the water collected in the gutters, running like rivers towards somewhere unknown. And every time your mind would drift back to her face in the photograph, to the bridge, to the figure in the mist, to the whispers. They weren't just in the rain anymore. They were in your dreams, your thoughts, your every quiet moment. A chorus of questions with no answers. It was on one of those nights, with the storm raging outside, that you made a decision. You couldn't let it rest. Not yet. Maybe it was the whiskey talking, or maybe it was something deeper, a pull you couldn't explain. Whatever it was, you grabbed your coat, stepped into the rain, and headed back to where it all began. The park was exactly as you remembered it, and yet it wasn't. Time had taken its toll, trees had grown taller, the bridge looked older, the air felt heavier. But the moment you stepped onto the path, it was like no time had passed at all. The rain was relentless, drenching you to the bone, but you didn't care. You walked the trail toward the bridge, your footsteps echoing through the emptiness. When you reached the spot where her umbrella had been found, you stopped. The whispers were louder here, circling around you like a living thing. They weren't just calling your name anymore. They were saying something else, something you couldn't quite make out. You strained to hear, your breath catching in your throat, and that's when you saw it, a flicker of movement in the distance. The same figure standing just beyond the bridge. This time you didn't hesitate. You ran toward it, your heart pounding in your chest, the rain blurring your vision. The figure didn't move, didn't fade away like before. It stayed there, waiting. When you were just a few steps away, you stopped, unsure of what would happen next. You could see it more clearly now, its outline shimmering in the rain, its form shifting like smoke caught in a breeze. You opened your mouth to speak, but before you could, the figure raised a hand. The whispers stopped. The rain slowed to a gentle drizzle. And then, in a voice that was both familiar and unearthly, it spoke. "Detective," it said, "you're not supposed to be here." The words hit you like a punch to the gut. Your mind raced, trying to make sense of what you were hearing, what you were seeing. But before you could respond, the figure took a step forward and the world around you seemed to tilt. The rain, the park, the bridge, it all began to dissolve like a painting being washed away. And then, just like that, you were back home, sitting by the window with the glass still in your hand. The storm outside was gone, replaced by a quiet, starless night. For the first time in years, there were no whispers, no echoes in the back of your mind. Just silence. You sat there for hours, staring at the empty sky, wondering if any of it had been real. The case, the whispers, the figure in the rain, it all felt like a dream, a story you'd told yourself to fill the void. But as you reached for the bottle to pour another glass, you noticed something. A single drop of water on the floor, glistening in the light. It wasn't raining anymore. And that's when you knew the rain hadn't let you go. Not yet. The days turned into weeks, and life continued its steady march forward. The world, indifferent to the mysteries it carried, went on. Yet you couldn't shake it, the drop of water on your floor that night, the figure in the rain, the voice that spoke your name. They lingered, etched into your memory like a scar that wouldn't fade. You began to notice things again. Not all at once, little by little, like pieces of a puzzle slipping back into view. A pair of footsteps echoing too close behind you in an empty street. A shadow that lingered in the corner of your eye a moment too long. The whispers returned, softer this time, almost gentle. But they were always there, threading through your thoughts like a melody you couldn't silence. One night, as sleep eluded you, you found yourself rifling through your old files. It had been years since you'd opened them, but your hands moved with a purpose, seeking something you didn't quite understand. And there it was, Eleanor Greene's case. Her photograph stared back at you, her smile frozen in time. You ran your fingers over the image as if hoping to feel some trace of her, something you might have missed. It wasn't just her face, though. It was the notes you'd taken, the witness statements, the scraps of evidence you'd clung to all those years ago. They were calling to you, demanding your attention. You spread them out across the table, the familiar weight of the investigation settling over you once more. And that's when you saw it, a detail you hadn't noticed before. It was small, almost insignificant. A word scribbled in the margin of one of your notes, faint and nearly illegible, listen. You didn't remember writing it. In fact, you were certain you hadn't. But there it was, staring back at you like a challenge. Listen to what? The rain? The whispers? The echoes of a case that had haunted you for decades? The next storm came a few days later. You'd been waiting for it, watching the sky grow heavy with clouds, feeling the electricity in the air. When the first drops began to fall, you grabbed your coat and headed outside. The rain soaked through your clothes, but you didn't care. You walked to the park, to the bridge, to the place where it had all begun. This time, you weren't alone. A figure stood there, just as it had before, waiting in the rain. It was different now, more solid, more real. You could see the faint outline of a face, the glint of eyes that seemed to pierce through the storm. And as you approached, the whispers grew louder, swelling into a chorus that filled the air around you. Detective, the figure said again, its voice soft but unyielding. You've been listening. You nodded, unsure of what to say. The figure stepped closer, and for the first time you saw it clearly. It wasn't Eleanor. It wasn't anyone you recognized. But there was something familiar in its gaze, something that felt like the echo of a memory you couldn't quite grasp. "You've carried this for too long," the figure said. "It's time to let it go." The words hit you like a wave, and for a moment you felt the weight of the years lift from your shoulders. The whispers quieted, fading into the rain, and the world seemed to grow still. The figure raised a hand and the rain began to slow. "She's at peace," it said. "Now you must be too." And just like that, the figure was gone. The rain stopped, leaving the world drenched in silence. You stood there for a long time, staring at the empty space where it had been, feeling a strange sense of calm wash over you. When you finally turned to leave, the whispers were gone. The rain had taken them with it, leaving you with nothing but the sound of your own footsteps. As you walked away from the bridge, you realized something. The case hadn't been about finding Eleanor, not really. It had been about finding yourself, about facing the shadows you'd carried and learning to let them go. And so the rain became just rain again. No whispers, no ghosts, no mysteries. Just the steady rhythm of water falling from the sky, washing the world clean. The rain became a distant memory, no longer a haunting presence but a quiet rhythm etched into the chapters of your life. You still think about Eleanor Greene sometimes, but not the way you once did. The urgency, the guilt, the endless replaying of moments, all of it has faded, replaced by something softer. A bittersweet acceptance, maybe. Or perhaps just peace. You've returned to the bridge a few times since that night. Not to chase answers, but to feel the air and listen to the world. It's different now, quieter somehow, as if the rain itself has learned to rest. You watch the water flow beneath the bridge, carrying fragments of the past towards someplace unreachable. You don't linger for long, you know better than to dwell in shadows. Life has a way of moving forward even when you're not ready for it. Days turn to weeks and weeks to years, bringing new moments to hold onto and new stories to tell. You've found joy in little things you never noticed before, the warm scent of coffee in the mornings, the sunlight spilling across the kitchen table, the laughter of strangers passing by. It's not much, but it's enough. And yet, every so often, you catch glimpses of rain that falls just a little heavier, of whispers that brush against your thoughts like a forgotten tune. You don't chase them anymore. You let them pass, like the wind through the trees, knowing they're a part of you but not your whole. Eleanor Greene's story will always linger in your heart, but it's no longer a weight you carry. It's a thread in the tapestry, a piece of the puzzle that makes up who you are. Now, when people ask about your years as a detective, you tell them the stories that make them smile. The quirky cases, the strange characters you've encountered, the wins that remind you why you started in the first place. But when the conversation drifts to unsolved mysteries, to the ones that got away, you pause. You offer a wry smile, shrug your shoulders, and say some stories aren't meant to end. Because that's what you've come to understand. Life isn't about finding all the answers, it's about living through the questions. About walking through the rain and coming out on the other side, not entirely dry but stronger for it. The rain hasn't fallen for days now, but you know it will come again. And when it does, you'll watch it from your window, letting it paint its rhythm across the world. You'll listen, not for whispers, not for ghosts, but for the quiet hum of life continuing. And that is enough. The seasons passed, and with them, the rain took on a new meaning for you. It wasn't a haunting anymore, it was a reminder. A reminder of the journey you had walked, the mysteries you had faced, and the truths you had learned about yourself. There were no more whispers now, no lingering shadows. Just the rain falling quietly, carrying memories away like leaves in a stream. Your days have found a rhythm simple but steady. You've taken up writing, though you wouldn't call yourself an author. Just someone with stories to tell. Sometimes you sit at your desk late into the night, typing out pieces of your past, letting the words pour out like the rain once did. You don't write about Eleanor Greene. Not yet. That story still feels sacred, something meant to stay between you and the rain. But you think you might someday, when the time feels right. People don't ask you about your work as much anymore. You're not the detective they come to for answers, the one who could solve anything with sheer determination and grit. You're just you now, and that's enough. You've learned that some mysteries can't be solved, and that's okay. They're meant to linger, to remind you of the world's complexities, its beauty, its sorrow. You still visit the bridge every now and then. Not because you're searching, but because it feels like home in a strange way. The air is always fresher there, the breeze carrying whispers of another life, a life you've let go of but still respect. You find yourself tracing the outline of memories as you watch the water flow, letting it take you back for a moment before you step forward again. On one of those visits, as you stand beneath the arch of the bridge, you notice something unexpected. A small flower blooming in the cracks of the stone. Bright and defiant, it stands against the odds, thriving in a place where life once felt absent. You don't touch it, you just look. And in that quiet moment, you realize something. The rain that once brought sorrow has brought something else too, a chance for renewal, for growth, for stories yet unwritten. And maybe, just maybe, that's the story you were meant to find all along. Another story, huh? Well, of mine. Something different, but haunting all the same. I call it Echo of Forgotten Streets. Ever heard of it? Probably not, most people haven't. But it's the kind of story that stays with you, like the smell of damp earth after a storm or the sound of footsteps in an alley when you know you're alone. It's about a place, a neighborhood, really. Once vibrant, bustling with life, but now all but forgotten. The kind of streets where history lingers in every crack of the pavement, where faded signs cling to abandoned storefronts and whispers of the past seem to echo through the empty corridors. You know the type, the places you walk through without realizing, the places that seem invisible even when you're staring right at them. But in the echoes of those streets, there's a story. A mystery, a secret that refuses to be silenced. And it's there, waiting for someone to listen, waiting for someone to walk those forgotten paths and remember what the world left behind. When storms rage and the city succumbs to the downpour, there exists a street, a place born of shadows and silence, known only to those who stumble upon it. The echo of forgotten streets emerges not in daylight, nor in calm weather. It is a creation of the tempest, concealed by veils of rain and revealed in its heaviest moments. The street defies comprehension. Its buildings loom like ancient sentinels, their facades weathered and crumbling, as though abandoned for centuries. Light struggles to persist, flickering lamplight casting fleeting shadows that seem alive in their movement. Between the stone walls and slick pavements, the air pulses with something unnatural, a presence, a purpose unknown. The echoes rise with the storm, a symphony of fragmented voices trapped in the street's confines. Each carries its own tragedy. The artist whose final masterpiece was left incomplete, the soldier whose loyalty met betrayal, the lover whose search ended in silence. Their stories linger, etched into the fabric of the street like spectral imprints, destined to be replayed with each storm's arrival. Those who encounter this place rarely remain unchanged. Some vanish entirely, their forms dissolving into the rain-soaked haze. Others escape, but they leave bearing the burden of knowing, a weight of memories that were never their own, whispers they will carry forever. The street exacts its toll, as if it feeds upon the sorrow of the living to sustain the mourning of the dead. At its heart stands its keeper. Neither a guardian nor a prisoner, this figure is cloaked in shadow, motionless, observing. The keeper's presence is undeniable, yet their role within this haunted realm remains inscrutable. They do not speak. They do not move. They are simply there, a part of the street and its echoing legacy. The street does not endure beyond the storm. When the rains subside, it vanishes, leaving no trace, no proof, only the lingering memory of those who dared to tread its uneven stones. And yet, its return is inevitable, as sure as the storms that summon it. Its existence raises no answers, only questions. What force binds it to the rain? Whose lives are etched into its walls? And why must it persist? Perhaps these questions matter not, for the street is neither understood nor conquered. It simply is, a mystery as eternal as the night. As each storm births the street anew, its echoes evolve. They are not stagnant, but fluid, as though the rain itself rewrites the stories. One night, the artist's mural drips down the brick walls, its colors bleeding together, forming scenes of anguish and fleeting hope. On another, the soldier specter stands vigil at a dimly lit crossroad, his silhouette sharp against the blur of the downpour. Time does not hold sway here, and the boundaries of memory shift with every gust of wind and every clap of thunder. Within the street's boundaries, the rules of the known world falter. Clocks stop ticking, footsteps leave no sound, voices rise without lips to speak them. The air grows heavier with each passing moment, pressing against those who venture too far as if urging them to turn back. But those who wander into this place are rarely seeking an escape. They are drawn by something unseen, compelled by a pull they cannot name. In the heart of the storm, there exists a single lamppost that flickers with a rhythm all its own, a stuttering heartbeat in a lifeless realm. Beneath its dim glow lies an inscription, etched into the pavement by an unknown hand. The words shift in the rain, their meaning never fixed. Some claim to have read pleas for forgiveness. Others swear they saw warnings carved in anguish. And there are those who see nothing at all, for the inscription reveals itself only to those who are ready to confront it. There is no record of how the street came to be, nor why it chooses to exist within the tempest's embrace. No living soul can claim its creation, and no scholar or seeker has charted its patterns. It defies explanation, remaining unyielding to the logic of both man and nature. Perhaps, in its essence, it is not meant to be understood. And still, the rain falls. The street breathes with the rhythm of the storm, awaiting its next visitors. Those who will wander its shadows, leave fragments of their own stories, and fade into its endless symphony of echoes. The city sleeps, the storm wanes, and the street fades once more, swallowed by the stillness of the night. Yet, in the whispered corners of darkened alleys, its echoes remain, lingering as faint reminders of a place that exists only when the skies weep. The echo of forgotten streets breathes life in obscurity, a phantom artery pulsating through a storm-stricken city. To expand its essence is to delve deeper into its mysteries, its stories interwoven with lives lost, its keepers steeped in silence, and its ever-changing presence, balancing on the edge of the unexplainable. The street itself becomes more intricate with each storm. The layout shifts. What was once a narrow alley becomes a winding thoroughfare, leading to crumbling theaters, abandoned cafes, or shattered storefronts frozen in time. Overhead, tattered awnings flutter like ghosts, dripping rainwater onto shattered cobblestones that glisten like obsidian. It is not just the physical aspects that alter. The street seems alive in its evolution. Windows flicker with shadows that move beyond logic, and signs bear names written in a language not meant for mortal tongues. The air hums with tension, as though the street watches, waits, and listens. A mural sprawls across the cracked brick wall of a crumbling building, its colors dripping in the relentless rain. At first, it appears abstract. Muted blues, somber grays, and streaks of crimson. But as the storm deepens, the painting shifts. Images emerge from the chaos. Shadowed faces, twisted hands, and eyes that seem to follow those who pass. The whispers of the painter cling to the air. My hand faltered, yet here it lives, though I do not. The mural is said to reflect the regrets of those who stand before it, their burdens painted alongside the artist's final creation. Through the shadows of the street, a steady rhythm echoes, footsteps on slick cobblestones. The soldier's spectral figure can be seen, his uniform tattered and soaked through, his face hidden beneath the brim of a dripping hat. He paces the same path endlessly, retracing the steps that led to his betrayal. Sometimes a second figure looms behind him, indistinct in the rain, a silent accusation, a shadow of guilt. His voice is low, almost a growl. Loyalty means nothing in the storm. Those who watch too long may find themselves inexplicably compelled to follow, their own steps merging with his. A soft, almost imperceptible hum weaves through the rain, a melody that carries both hope and despair. The lover's form is fleeting, visible only in glimpses when lightning cracks the sky. They wander aimlessly, clutching a keepsake that shifts shape with each storm, a locket, a ribbon, a letter blurred by the rain. Their voice is not a whisper but a song, melancholic and incomplete. In the rain, I will find you, even if you are no more. Sometimes those who hear it are left with a strange sense of longing, though they cannot say what or whom they long for. In a storefront long abandoned, gears and springs glint faintly in the storm's light, scattered as though frozen in time. The clockmaker is a hunched silhouette within, hands moving as if winding an invisible mechanism. A low, rhythmic ticking emanates from the space, though no clock remains intact. His whisper is measured and relentless. Each second was mine to give, yet none to take back. Occasionally, those who walk the street find themselves aware of their pulse ticking in perfect synchrony, an unsettling reminder of time's inexorable passage. A fragment of melody lingers in the air, carried on the wind. The singer's voice is achingly beautiful yet tinged with a sharp edge of sorrow. Her form drifts in the periphery of vision, a silhouette that vanishes if pursued. The rain seems to harmonize with her song. Creating a haunting refrain, they silenced my voice, but not my soul. Some say she appears to those whose hearts are heavy with unspoken truths, her melody pulling confessions from their lips, echoing their words back as if to mark their place among the streets forgotten. Amid the storm, the faint sound of small footsteps can be heard, though their source remains elusive. Occasionally, the image of a child appears clutching a waterlogged photograph, its edges frayed and its image faded beyond recognition. The child does not speak, but their presence carries an unsettling weight, as if they are waiting for someone who will never arrive. The photograph, if glimpsed, seems to change depending on the observer, showing figures from their own pasts they cannot quite recall. Those who follow the child find themselves circling back to the same spot, as though the street itself conspires to trap them in the rain. Each echo becomes a thread in the street's living narrative, its stories shifting like shadows in the storm. Their voices overlap, sometimes harmonious, sometimes discordant, always drawing those who walk the street deeper into its labyrinth of sorrow and mystery. The street's entrance shifts with each storm, never appearing in the same location twice. For some, it materializes in a familiar place, a street they walk every day but warped and unrecognizable under the relentless rain. For others, the street feels like it's calling them from afar, guiding their steps as if by unseen hands. The entrances are always fleeting, vanishing moments after the first footstep is taken, leaving no way back. The echoes, those spectral remnants of forgotten lives, are not bound to silence. Sometimes their stories overlap, creating eerie juxtapositions. The artist might pause before the clockmaker's scattered gears, observing them with an intensity that suggests recognition. The soldier may halt in his march, drawn to the faint strains of the singer's haunting melody. Do they remember fragments of each other? Or are these moments mere illusions created by the street? Their interactions deepen the mystery, hinting at a shared history yet to be uncovered. The street does not exist in linear time. For some who enter, it feels as though minutes pass. For others, hours stretch into days. When they emerge, if they do, they find that no time has passed at all, or perhaps too much time. Watches stop working, reflections in rain puddles ripple unnaturally, and the light of the flickering street lamps pulses in rhythms that defy human understanding. Though the keeper remains silent and unmoving, their shadow often shifts, appearing in places they were not seen before. Some claim to feel a cold gaze, others a sense of protection, as if the keeper's presence wards off unseen dangers lurking deeper in the street. Occasionally, when the rain grows heavier, the keeper's shadow appears to stretch and envelop the street, plunging it into momentary darkness. Whether this is an act of power, despair, or warning is left to interpretation. The rain itself seems alive, its rhythm shifting in response to the emotions and actions of those who walk the street. At times it falls with an oppressive weight, muffling all sound save the echoes. At others, it becomes gentle, almost musical, as if listening to the stories being told. Some claim the rain carries whispers, soft voices barely distinguishable from its cadence. Others say the rain burns their skin, leaving no marks but evoking sharp memories of regret or sorrow. For those brave or foolish enough to wander the street's length, a central structure lies hidden at its heart. It is always different, a weathered fountain where the water flows red, an ancient tree, its branches barren and twisted, dripping with rain, or a ruined chapel with walls that seem to breathe. These structures hold deeper secrets, artifacts, inscriptions, or visions that offer fragmented glimpses of the street's origin or purpose. Yet approaching them is fraught with peril as the echoes grow louder and the street itself seems to resist the intrusion. Though no instructions are given, there are rules to the street etched into its very essence. Those who run find themselves circling back to the same point, while those who stand still too long risk being consumed by the shadows. Speaking certain phrases, perhaps once heard from the whispers, seems to provoke a reaction as the rain intensifies or the echoes grow silent. Breaking these unspoken rules carries a price, though no one who has paid it can describe the cost. The rules seem woven into the fabric of the street itself, as if they are not consciously enforced but inherently understood. They are not written or spoken aloud, yet the echoes obey them and those who wander the street feel their pull. Do not look back. Those who turn their gaze behind them find only darkness, as if the street erases their steps. Those who linger too long become ensnared, unable to move forward or backward, frozen in time. Remain silent. Speaking aloud disrupts the whispers and causes the rain to intensify, silencing voices and blurring the echo stories. Some who speak report the street growing smaller around them as if it seeks to envelop and claim them. Walk at a steady pace. Those who rush feel their steps falter, each step slower than the last. Those who linger too long find themselves at the mercy of the echoes, hearing voices grow louder and closer, as if beckoning them to stay. When the rain falters and the echoes begin to fade, the street reaches its final moments. The shadows retreat, folding themselves into the cracks of the pavement, and the spectral figures dissolve into the mist like forgotten dreams. The keeper lingers at the heart of it all, motionless, their silhouette barely visible through the thinning veil of rain. For a brief moment, the street grows silent, not even the whisper of wind remains. Then, with the first ray of dawn breaching the storm clouds, the street begins to unravel. The buildings crumble without a sound, bricks disintegrating into droplets that vanish before they touch the ground. The lampposts flicker one last time before the darkness consumes them entirely. The rain washes away the final remnants, leaving only barren asphalt and the muted hum of the waking city. For those who stepped upon its stones, memories linger like a fading scent. They recall fragments of the street, a corner illuminated by a flickering light, a voice that whispered too close, or a shadow that never left their periphery. Yet, when they search for it, they find nothing. Maps show no sign of its existence. Streets lead only to familiar, mundane intersections. The echo of forgotten streets leaves no trace, only questions and unease. And yet, deep within the recesses of the city, a faint rhythm begins. A drop of rain striking an abandoned awning, a whisper carried on a cold wind. The street will return when the storm calls it, and the cycle will begin anew. It endures not as a place, but as a question unanswered and a truth untold, waiting for those who dare step into its shadowed embrace. One night, the rain had been falling without mercy, drumming against the window in a relentless rhythm that echoed my restless thoughts. I spent the evening staring at a map of the city, tracing paths with no destination, searching for a street that wasn't supposed to exist. The echo of forgotten streets, they called it. I'd heard the stories, whispers of a street that appeared only during the most furious storms and disappeared before dawn. Find the storm and it will find you, an old man had told me once. His words rattled in my mind as I threw on my coat and stepped into the downpour. The rain hit me like icy needles, soaking through my clothes as I wandered the deserted streets. At a forgotten corner, I slowed. The pavement beneath my feet felt different, colder, heavier somehow. The flicker of the streetlights above grew erratic, and there it was, something impossible. A street I'd never seen before stretched ahead of me, cloaked in rain and shadows. I whispered to myself, "This is it." The air thickened with an unearthly weight as I stepped forward, drawn in despite myself. The world behind me seemed to fade, swallowed by the storm. The buildings were ancient, crumbling with neglect, their walls whispering stories I couldn't quite hear. The first voice was faint, broken, an artist lamenting a masterpiece left unfinished. Then came the soldier, trudging through the shadows, his betrayal an invisible shroud over his shoulders. "Keep walking," a voice rasped behind me. I turned sharply, but there was no one there, only rain and shadows. At the far end of the street, a single lamppost flickered erratically, casting a pale, trembling light. Beneath it stood a figure motionless, veiled in the rain. I didn't ask who or what they were. They didn't speak. Their presence alone was enough to anchor me in place, torn between dread and curiosity. The next thing I remember is waking to daylight. The rain had stopped. The street was gone. I stood on the edge of an ordinary intersection, clutching a map that showed no sign of the place I had walked. I tried to shake the memories loose, but they clung like damp clothes. The voices, the shadows, the keeper. The echo of forgotten streets had vanished, leaving behind only a hollow question. Had I ever really been there? Or had the rain simply played its tricks on me? When the rain falters and the echoes begin to fade, the street reaches its final moments. The shadows retreat, folding themselves into the cracks of the pavement, and the spectral figures dissolve into the mist like forgotten dreams. The keeper lingers at the heart of it all, motionless, their silhouette barely visible through the thinning veil of rain. For a brief moment, the street grows silent. Not even the whisper of wind remains. Then, with the first ray of dawn breaching the storm clouds, the street begins to unravel. The buildings crumble without a sound, bricks disintegrating into droplets that vanish before they touch the ground. The lampposts flicker one last time before the darkness consumes them entirely. The rain washes away the final remnants, leaving only barren asphalt and the muted hum of the waking city. For those who stepped upon its stones, memories linger like a fading scent. They recall fragments of the street, a corner illuminated by a flickering light, a voice that whispered too close, or a shadow that never left their periphery. Yet, when they search for it, they find nothing. Maps show no sign of its existence. Streets lead only to familiar, mundane intersections. The echo of forgotten streets leaves no trace, only questions and unease. And yet, deep within the recesses of the city, a faint rhythm begins. A drop of rain striking an abandoned awning, a whisper carried on a cold wind. The street will return when the storm calls it, and the cycle will begin anew. It endures not as a place, but as a question unanswered and a truth untold, waiting for those who dare step into its shadowed embrace. The hour grows late, and the shadows deepen. As you step away from this threshold, remember, the stories I share are merely mirrors, reflecting what you already hold within. Carry the weight of these truths carefully, for what you find in the dusk may change the way you walk through the dawn. Until the next crossing, wanderer, farewell and fare wisely.